You feel like you need to earn your own rest, earn being loved by someone, like you can only stop after you've done something useful, like asking for help is being a burden, like when nobody needs you, a part of you disappears a little, as if without a function you don't really know where you fit anymore. You didn't even notice when you learned this. It wasn't a choice. It just happened, slowly. Every time you solved someone else's problem before looking at your own. Every time you swallowed your exhaustion so you wouldn't disappoint anyone. Every time you felt safer being useful than simply being yourself. It sounds dramatic, but this shaped who you are. And today, without even realizing it, you no longer know how to feel valuable without being useful. This video is about that, about the person who learned, a long time ago, that they needed to be useful in order to be loved. Now imagine a scene with me. It's the weekend. You finally have free time. Nobody asked you for anything. No urgent task. No problem to solve. It should feel good. It should feel like rest. But you're sitting on the couch and you can't stay still. You pick up your phone, open it without thinking, close it again. You stand up, sit back down. You start thinking about something you could be doing, a task you could get ahead on, someone you could check on, a favor you could offer before anyone even asks. And then that feeling comes, that dull discomfort that's hard to explain. It's not exactly anxiety, it's not sadness either. It's more like restlessness, like you're out of place, like existing without being useful to someone feels wrong somehow. So you get up. You organize something that didn't need organizing. You text someone asking if they need help. You offer a ride nobody asked for. You take responsibility for something that wasn't even yours. And then you breathe. Not because you solved something important, but because you had a function again. Or think about another moment. Someone tries to do something for you, a simple favor, a small act of care, and you feel this strange discomfort, almost an urgency to refuse, to say, you don't have to solve it yourself before someone else has to bother with you. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I feel uncomfortable receiving help. It's almost automatic. You got so used to being the one who takes care of everything, that you no longer know what to do when someone tries to take care of you. And deep down, somewhere you rarely visit, there's a question you've never said out loud. If I'm not being useful, would anyone still want my presence? You're not alone. This isn't exaggeration. It isn't weakness. It isn't all in your head. There are a lot of people like this. People who seem strong on the outside. The ones everybody calls when there's a problem. The ones who never complain. The ones who show up before anyone even asks. People who carry everyone else's daily life with a kind of naturalness that almost feels unreal. But inside, it's different. Inside, there's someone who feels guilty when they rest. Someone constantly waiting for the next thing to solve. Someone who feels strangely empty during the exact moments they're supposed to feel peaceful. People usually see you as strong, but they don't see the exhaustion. And maybe the quietest part of all of this is that nobody is forcing you to be this way. There's no one demanding it. You just are. The available one, the reliable one, the one who fixes things, the one who never becomes a burden. I guess I got used to being the reliable one. And when you try to stop, when you try to simply exist without a mission, without a role, that strange feeling comes back, that emptiness that shouldn't even be there. Yeah, I didn't realize how personal this was until now. Now stop for a second, because most people who get this far think the problem is just too much responsibility, that they don't know how to switch off, that they just need better boundaries, need to rest more, need to say no more often. But it's not that simple. What's happening is deeper than a bad habit, older than any conscious decision you ever made. This isn't about productivity. It isn't about organization. It isn't about time management. It's about what you learned a long time ago you needed to do in order to be loved. At some point in your life, maybe very early on, you realized that when you were useful, things worked better. You received attention. You received approval. You received affection. And when you weren't being useful, something felt missing. So you didn't develop an addiction to work. You developed an addiction to earning your worth. Think about how this begins. Usually there isn't one dramatic moment. There isn't a single scene you can point to and say, that's where it started. It's more subtle than that. It's a collection of small things that kept happening over time. Maybe you grew up in an environment where you had to mature too quickly, where the adults around you had their own problems, and you learned not to become another one, to be easy, to handle things on your own, to solve what you could so you wouldn't overwhelm anyone. Or maybe affection in your home was conditional. Not necessarily in a cruel way, but you noticed that when you helped, when you behaved, when you were useful, the emotional atmosphere at home became lighter. People seemed more satisfied. You received more attention, more affection, more presence, and your brain, which is very good at learning patterns, registered that. Being useful equals being loved. Being loved equals being safe. That's simple. That's silent. You didn't choose this. No child would choose this. But you learned it. And that lesson became so deep, so early, that today it feels like part of your personality, like it's who you are. But it's not who you are. It's what you learned to do in order to survive emotionally. And now, as an adult, the system keeps running. You just keep going, even when you're exhausted, even when you need help, even when nobody asked anything from you. Because somewhere deep inside, stopping still feels dangerous, as if resting could risk losing someone's love. Pay attention to this with me for a second. It's not just about helping others. It's about what happens inside you when you're not helping. There's a voice. You know that voice. It doesn't scream. It isn't dramatic. It's quiet, constant, always there. And it appears during the quietest moments. When you finally sit down, when the day ends, when there's nothing left to solve. It says things like, you could be more productive. You could be helping someone. You're wasting time. You haven't earned rest yet. I feel guilty when I'm not doing something useful. And you try to ignore it. You try to convince yourself that you deserve rest. But the discomfort doesn't leave. It stays there, like a debt you don't really know how to repay. So you get up and you do something, anything. Not because you wanted to, but because it was the only way to silence that voice. And there's another layer to this, one that's harder to admit. Part of me feels useless when nobody needs me. It's not just guilt about resting. It's a real feeling of emptiness when you don't have a function, when your phone doesn't vibrate with someone asking for help, when the day passes and nobody needed you, when you look around and realize that for today, everyone is okay without you. And instead of feeling relieved, it hurts, because without needing to be useful, you don't really know what to do with yourself. Okay, this might sound a little sad, but it's real. You solve everyone else's problems and ignore your own, not because you don't care, but because looking at your own problems requires a kind of attention you never learned to direct inward. You were always trained to look outward, at what other people needed, at what was missing around you. Looking at yourself almost feels selfish, and then comes the quietest part of all of this, the difficulty of receiving. When someone genuinely tries to take care of you, you don't know what to do with it. You become uncomfortable. You feel indebted. You feel like you need to give something back immediately. As if receiving love without offering something in return breaks some invisible rule you never wrote but always followed. Sometimes I don't even know how to relax anymore. Because relaxing requires trust. It requires believing that you still have value even when you're resting, even when you're quiet, even when you're not giving anything to anyone. And that belief, nobody ever taught you that. You get so used to helping other people that you forget to look at yourself, and one day you realize you know everyone else's problems. You know what every person around you needs. You're always available for anyone who shows up, but if someone asks how you're really doing, you'll probably take a while to answer, because it's been so long since anyone asked that you almost forgot to pay attention to that too. Now, pay attention to this part. You are not useful because you are a good person. You became useful because you learned it was the safest way to be loved. There's a huge difference between those two things. One comes from choice, the other comes from fear. And until you recognize that difference, you'll keep carrying a weight that was never supposed to be yours. You'll keep helping people because of anxiety disguised as generosity. You'll keep exhausting yourself because of a system your brain created when you were too young to question it. The turning point is not stopping helping people. It's not becoming selfish. It's not abandoning who you are. The turning point is realizing that you do not need to earn your place, that your presence has value before anything you do, that resting is not failing, that needing help is not being a burden, that being loved should not depend on your usefulness. You simply exist. You bring companionship. You bring your personality. And that is already enough. People can love you naturally, just for being yourself. It's just that nobody told you that early enough. Maybe you got this far and recognized something in yourself. Maybe you remembered a moment when you felt empty because you had nothing to do, or a time when you refused help without really understanding why, or a night when you were exhausted but kept going anyway. That doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you broken, it makes you human, someone who learned to survive the only way they knew how. But now that you know, you can start doing things differently, slowly, without pressure, without needing to fix this immediately too. Sometimes the first step is simply noticing, and you just noticed. Tell me in the comments what you understood from all of this, and whether you saw yourself in it. A lot of people are going through the same thing you are. That's why the comments are a place where we can understand each other a little better. I'll stop here for now, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can receive the next videos. See you next time.